All right, welcome to Pass the Mic for Friday, January 27th, 2023. It is episode 58. We are on Zoom because it is a snow day, which we'll play further into this episode. Mike Piotte here on Zoom, joining me, Michael Gervasi.
And let loose with the juice when I do rock. I'm too hot. Some say I got more juice than Tupac.
Well, I know it's not Tupac.
It's not Tupac.
Through a process of elimination.
Yes. My hunch is you've never heard of this rapper, even though he's a pretty big name.
Yeah, I'm not even going to act. I have no clue.
All right, so the rapper is Redman, also known as
Yep.
Never heard of Redman. Okay,
never heard of Redman.
It's funny you say that because I went to Dana Georgie's 40th birthday party this weekend.
Happy belated.
Happy belated. Happy 40th. And before I get into what I'm going to tell you about this, which relates to the song, Pete Fogler, active listener, and it was really cool talking to him about the show. So I wanted to give a shout out to him, amongst others we're going to be talking about today. But then I ran into Jen Morton and
the Chapman crew.
Yes, we talked about you, and she asked the question: how could a person who is a DJ not know all these songs?
In all honesty, the Wise Owls, hip hop isn't heavy into our gig rotation, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
I mean, that's.
And to be fair, the song I just sang, the first words of the song are 1990 Mother Scratching 2. So
that's right in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, well, it is, but it's also 31 years old. So I don't think you're going to be playing that at a high school dance, although I do think it'd go over.
No, 1992. That was 1 year before Tag Team with Whoop. There it is. That was 93.
Great song, Redman, top-notch rapper to say the least. And
so I'm off to a slow start for 23. I ended 22 with a bang, but I'm off to a slow start for 23.
Well, you're hitting 500 right now, right?
Yeah. Because I got the last one in 22 and the first one in 23. So.
Oh, so 333.
Yeah.
Still a good baseball average.
Yeah, they'd pay us a ton of money in the Major League Baseball. Guaranteed contract, too. As you mentioned, we have a lot of last week's episode was very well received. A lot of people, the civil rights discussion that we had, a lot of people chimed in on their education background about the Mr. Bailey, I think, mentioned the museum, the African American History Museum in DC that I still say I want to get back to. A lot of people with similar feedback, and ironically, this week as we're recording it, we have a governor of another state wanting to shut down an AP African American history class. The state will remain unnamed, but you can.
The irony is the day we recorded was the day that came out. So that night, pretty interesting. We got
as we said, learning about history, I guess it's controversial in 23. Who would have thought? Yeah.
The Pates, per usual, Elizabeth Pate thought it was one of our best, if not the best show. Sean Gordon, my buddy, Sean has been a guest on the show. He came, for our call-in show and mentioned the Charles Wright Museum in Detroit.
Yes, we have a local museum, correct?
Yes, and talked about that. Detroit Historical Society putting on a heck of a feature on the '67 riots. But again, we're getting hammered about Pass the Mic really being a food show. This is
I think it's more sports than food as the secondary topic, but again, but the breakfast people responded. Coach Tony Saavedra was on, and then of course another former guest, Annie Hayjack, referred to your hash browns on Twitter as mashed potatoes, which I thought was a great line. Undercooked hash browns is, man, why not just have mashed potatoes?
Yeah, whatever, Annie. Tom Pack couldn't believe nobody seems to agree with my French toast take.
I was right there with you. I'm not a big French toast guy, but other than so that's the one thing. But again, I'm the whole sweets. I'm not a big breakfast sweets guy. So I got good news. Food is not. We're only talking about food in the recap, unless you have something in your hot mic.
No, nothing about food today.
So at least a week off of that. Any other things you want to give before I get into my mic of the week?
No, go ahead. Let's
so my mic of the week, I was just, again, I see news stories and stuff, and then recently this CEO of a major company has returned to the company, I guess, to try to save it. In reality, save its stock price more than it, because I don't think the company's doing that poorly. Michael Eisner back working at Disney. He was originally hired in 1984 and really took Disney from just a small, you think about back in the 80s, and 90s, Disney was not the mega power it was now. It was an amusement
Right.
park that a few people would go to. They stick out a movie here and there, but what it became is, I mean, it's built into American culture when you think about
Yeah.
it now.
Right.
And I was shocked that he's 80 years old and coming back. I mean, I don't, you know, and so then I did a little research on him. He definitely was not a pull up your bootstraps kind of guy. He sort of grew up. He never had a rough life, even
Yeah.
in his childhood. So, but you know, he obviously made it big and is a successful CEO, and he's back down there. And I'm sure, you know, I'm not personally a big Disney person. I just saw that, hey, it's a Michael that's done well for himself, so
Yeah.
deserving of our wall. So good luck.
Welcome to
I
the
didn't,
club,
and
Mike.
again, I didn't. The pictures they release of him on the news do him justice, because when I think he's using a picture from like 20, like the pictures I saw on the nightly news when they said he's back, and I pull up and he's 80 years old. I think that he's using it's like me using my 1998 2000 staff photo in this
It's
year's
funny you say
yearbook.
that. I pulled them up here, and you're right. Most of them are much younger, Michael Eisner.
I need
So
to start. I got to talk to Miss Angie Ledge on this and start using like my 2002 staff photo for the
yeah,
yearbook
perfect.
when I
Right.
have a little more hair and stuff like that. Pull the Michael Eisner trick. All
Yeah.
right, this week for education, I figured a great topic would be to talk about, and we've sort of mentioned them in past episodes, just in passing, relating to other topics, but the importance of unsung heroes in education. You know, a lot of times it's teachers and administrators that get all the publicity, whether it be good or bad. And I thought about it you know, the other day, because I know like the cheerleaders had staff appreciation, you know, and it's almost always like teachers or administrators. But I wanted to talk about the unsung heroes of education, and who, in your mind, what positions in your mind step out, and if there's anyone personally that you feel is a big what in those positions do you find important? If there's anyone personally that you remember from your days as a student or now as a staff member that you want to give a shout out to, and ignore the end of the month siren that's going on in
Yeah.
the
Right.
background.
Right. Right. Right.
Where we both have it. We're both
10
down here.
o'clock. Yeah.
It's not The Walking Dead or anything like that. So what do you got?
So, you know, I remember being told when I started, make sure you're in good with the secretary. Geez, oh, Pete, this is really loud. Make sure you're in good with the secretary of the building, and make sure you're in good with the custodians. And that's very true. And we've had several good, you know, shout out Beth Wilson, Jenny Budkin now, Brenda Greer, Karen Mina, you know, Mike Darnell, some of the, I feel bad even
Yeah,
leaving.
we're never gonna list
No,
everybody.
no. But, you know, I want to give a shout out to two people right now. Man, this is like really
It's funny. It probably waves to your house and then it waves to my house, so it's a
yeah,
continuous circle in the episode.
right.
So, but that's fine. But it's only gonna last a minute.
Yes. I want to give a shout out to Joanne and Tim Simons, our hall monitors right now. I really could not imagine what our lives would be like without them. They do such good work. Tim Simons is anywhere in the building you need him to be at any time. Joanne has been anywhere in the building anytime we've needed her since I've been here at Carlson, and still remarkably doing it well. She's a fixture at our school, you know, and like I said, man, they are amazing. Tim Simons last year, I again, this is like a personal shout out. You know, when we went through the weird day of Oxford and stuff like that, he took it upon himself to go check on my daughter and make sure at Shoemate and make sure she was okay. You know, he really is amazing. He's always looking out for all of us. And, you know, like I said, Joanne is, there's never a moment with her. We talk about FBI all the time, Most Wanted. We talk about our shows in common. We sit, you know, in the lunch line, we monitor together some days, and she is just awesome. So I want to give a shout out to those two in particular.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. I've said it before. When I first was hired, my mom, who worked as a school cook for years, both at the middle school, mainly at Shoemate, she told me the first thing when I got hired is make sure you are kind to and treat your custodians, your secretaries, and the lunch ladies well. And and I want to throw in bus drivers there as well, because
Yeah.
you and I both coach, so that's one that we don't. A lot of our coworkers don't tend to think about, but when you coach, you got to know those
Yes.
bus drivers, and you
Yes.
realize that is the toughest job in the district. I don't care what anybody says. Driving a huge vehicle on its own, you think about a day like today where it's a snow day where it's not called off. Well, there's some days, you know, where the weather's bad and everyone is behind you.
Yeah.
Previously, there were no cameras or anything. You were just relying on kids, sitting there and behaving. And I remember going to track meets or this or that, and I always had the utmost respect for those people. And and you don't realize how hard it is. And like you said, secretaries, as educators, we don't have a quote unquote our own secretary. So if you were always kind and good to those secretaries, they would do a lot of things for you. They'd help you
Right.
out. I know that, like Jen Butkin does stuff for me. All three that you mentioned, Brenda
Absolutely.
Greer in athletics, she does above and beyond. And same with Karen Mina. I give her a list of things, and she takes. It's like they don't have to do that. They don't.
Right.
And again, I think they're very good and probably treat everyone fairly. But I know the people that treat them well, we get a few perks of things that they do for us. I mean, that's just the way it is. If you treat somebody, like a lower class or whatever, then you're going to be treated that way. Same thing in lunch. I remember all of my middle school friends, they'd always talk about how much they liked going through my mom's line, because if people treated her well, she treated them well. Rick Salas, we got Big Rick up at at Carlson now. Great guy, talks to you every day. These people aren't doing it for the money. Trust me. Like,
Right.
teachers aren't doing it for the money. So you can only imagine what these secondary roles. They're doing it because they want to work, but they also enjoy being in a school community and working with others. And a lot of them, I think of Dave Harvey, who we just lost at Carlson, and the custodians. He went down to Shoemate to be the head custodian. Here's a guy, he's helping coach wrestling.
Sure.
Man, and like anything you ask of these people, they would do for you in a second. So we've said it before, and you've mentioned Mike Darnell. Mike Darnell came to cross country meets to watch our cross country team run. You know what I mean? Like, and I just, new staff members, and in our building, I would have to say, is probably pretty good. I don't go around and poll every employee, obviously, and say, hey, how is every teacher treating you? Obviously, there's always going to be some people that just don't match or just don't. But I think most people in our building are respectful and treat people well. They don't look down on anybody.
Yeah. And I want to come back just to let the listener know something too, regarding bus drivers. There's an uneasiness, a discomfort with even in your best of classes. If you are turning around writing on the board, what's going on behind you.
Again, not driving a vehicle.
Right. I mean, a bus, that is your job. You have to be turned around. And, just thinking about that, visualizing that's their entire job, is not facing kids that they essentially have to at least somewhat keep in line. Right. And so I could not imagine the nature of the job itself being that stressful, because like I said, if I take 30 seconds to write something on the board, that's an uneasy 30 seconds. This is their entire job,
Well, not only the process of driving them, but dropping them off at the end of the day, when you have these fools that don't follow the rules about stopping for red lights. You have little elementary kids trying to cross the street. That's still under their. I mean, like, I would never want the job. I wouldn't want the job at my current salary.
Right.
And that's there. And so, if any advice, I think your advice and my mom's advice is just make an effort. And and again, if you come across somebody that doesn't reply or isn't, that's fine. But for the most part, everyone I've ever worked with in these positions have been kind. They want to talk to you. They want, and if you treat them well, they're going to take care of you and treat you well. Grace Carlson, same way, our head custodian. I gave her a shout out in last week's newsletter. I asked for something, it's done in the next 3 minutes. And I even say, no, I always say, hey, I need some paper up here, no rush. Right. It's there, man. It's like, and it's just and again, show appreciation. That's what I like about my student council gig, is we can do stuff and show appreciation. So these in my mind are truly the unsung heroes in education. We want to thank you for all you do, and thank you for making our jobs easier. Right? I mean, like, that's part of it. So, all right. We planned this overrated, underrated before we knew that we would be off today, but we figured it's this time of year and that sort of thing. So we're going to talk overrated, underrated snow days. I don't know if there's anything really overrated about a snow day, but maybe there is. So it is Wednesday, the 25th, as we record this. It's still early in the day. We're doing this about 10 a.m. as we heard the Rockwood siren going off, warning of us doom. So the heavy snow isn't projected till like about the 11 to 2 o'clock hour, right in the prime part of the day.
Right.
So again, when I woke up this morning, there wasn't much, but we'll have to wait and see. But in any case, most of Monroe and most of Wayne County took the safe route, called it off last night. So we are experiencing a snow day live. What is your overrated for snow days?
All right. So I'm looking out here right now. It's really coming down. And to me, the overrated part is the day itself. And even my underrated kind of fits with the overrated a little bit, but I'll get to that obviously in a minute. My overrated though is the knowledge that I have to get out there and shovel snow, and I'm going to have to do it more than once. And on top of that, in certain cases, some of us have parents that aren't able to do it for whatever reason. So I have the knowledge I have to get to my mom's house today too.
Oh yeah, the double. Yeah, that reminds me. I got to text my dad.
Yeah, so that's to me is my overrated. It's just it's a constant dark cloud on an otherwise pretty cool day. But I know I'm gonna at least be doing 2 and potentially 3 houses today. And that's not, like I said, it's a dark cloud because it's going to have to happen more than once. And it's probably going to carry over all the way into tonight. So that's my overrated, the knowledge that I have to shovel snow.
Yeah. Overrated for me is waking up to all the social media posts blasting the decisions
Yes.
to call a snow day, ranging in people from boomers all the way. I see recent Carlson grads saying we never would have had this day off, blah, 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 and it's like everyone always moves the goalposts. Now, granted, when we were going to school, there were still snow days when we went to school.
Right.
Like, and I've been working for 25 years. I don't see any difference in number of days. After I do see the one thing that has changed over the years is it used to be a lot more. We're going to wait till 4 or 5 in the morning, and then see what it's like then. What's changed in the last 5 years or so has been the calling it the night before. That has definitely changed.
Right.
And I remember taking my ed leadership classes to be an administrator, and one of my instructors was a interim superintendent, I think down in Airport or Monroe County, and he told me, and the old method was he would get up at like 4 in the morning and literally drive around his district.
Yeah.
That was the old method. You think about how dumb dumb of a solution this is. And now the method is, and I know this firsthand because both the 2 days we've had, I happened to see our superintendent both of the days that were called the day before. It's just luck of the draw. And both days she was going to be getting on a conference call with like Wayne County superintendents. They work and this way you're never the one school. You remember always used to be you look and you'd be like, oh wait, Gibraltar's off, but Taylor isn't this. Those days are gone basically. Yeah. Like these superintendents get together, they all call and say, what do you think? This and that, and then they make a decision that I'm not giving away any top secret news. This is obvious, sure. And so that, barring like a building problem, it's usually one or all. And so, I don't think things have changed that much. I think today, like the struggle of today is that it's supposed to get really bad for like 3 hours so all of a sudden, if you have all these high school kids driving to school, they get to school this morning, it's fine. And then all of a sudden at 2:30, there's 4 or 5 inches and it's coming down like crazy. Do you really want people driving home in that? I personally don't, when you have the ability to do this. It's still early. We've only used 1 day. For those of you guys that don't know, like Michigan student accounting law, you get 6 days, I believe, that you can use as snow days that don't have to be made up. So we're getting into February. We've only used 2. I mean, you really only use them through February. So, I'm not trying to say anything. I mean, it's been a real mild winter actually. So for me, the overrated is all the people getting on and complaining and being like, and again, they're making complaints at 6 in the morning when it's the first flurries are falling. Like it's fine if you want, if we get to tonight and there's 2 inches on the ground and this, which is very possible.
Right.
You can make those complaints in, but still it's not a complaint because these superintendents, we've said this before, I think most parents appreciate the call the night before. Instead of 5 in the morning, getting a call. So my overrated is the old get off my lawn complainers. I'm like, and if you really think it's that great of a perk for like us as workers or educators, go to the RESA site. There's plenty of job opportunities. And every year you can get 1 or 2 paid days off and be happy about it. With all the other things that come along with the job. So those 1 or 2 days you can celebrate. So, all right. What do you got for underrated?
Yeah. So to kind of go along with that, and again, I'm sort of combining elements here, and one can make a case that this is actually overrated. But you mentioned the perks of the job, getting this paid day off, and I'm not even talking about the paid aspect of it. But again, this is a busy time of year. This is the last day, end of the semester, and the snow days we get, you don't necessarily fall on this. So I'm not necessarily. This is more of a general though. It's really nice right now just to step back and be able to kind of figure out, okay, this is to be able to map out, all right, this is how my next 2 weeks are going to go. And that's what kind of this day does for me. During the school day, I, as an example, yesterday, most of my prep hour was spent with meetings. Now I can do things, kind of take a step back, sort of breathe a little bit and get some work done that has to be done going forward here for the next couple of weeks. Because, like today, we're coming to the end of the semester. Friday is although now it's going to be Monday because of the snow day, but it's the end of the semester. There's 100 things to do. We still have to put grades in, but we can't put them in until final exams are done. And we have to prepare for next week. We have to all, get our syllabus printed, or, if we put it on Schoology, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of stuff to do. The bonus of this day, especially this week, but in general, is just being able to step back and breathe and get things done that have to be done.
Yeah, and I think like underrated too, like you mentioned, I'm not going to be sitting around all day. I'm working. I'm going to be getting stuff ready for exams tomorrow. Now that now looking at what my schedule is going to shift to, we have a contract negotiating Zoom meeting later that was going to be in person. That's now Zoom that I'm going to be taking care of. So again, yes, it is nice to just refresh and get your feet under you, because that's what I was looking forward to, these half days in the afternoon coming up, because those are what I use those for too as well. Right. Not only getting stuff in, but also getting my feet under me. My underrated ties in. I mentioned a little bit in my overrated. First of all, the new method of getting the night before. That's so all of a sudden now, if I wanted to, I could have stayed up late last night, or and last night was perfectly safe and clear. A friend of ours that works in the building texted me, and I suggested going to Joe's Prime Time, and his encouragement was to go. I decided still I was tired. It was a long day. I didn't, but that night before. But then also, to me, an underrated snow day thing is not actually the snow day, because this sort of goes with your underrated. The old cold days, those are actually better, or ice days. Those are actually better than snow days, because there's no shoveling involved, right? Like if you have the cold day, it's just cold. You don't have to go out and do anything. The ice days, just as good, because it's like icy at like 6 a.m, but that usually means it's because it was cold and then it gets warm. So all that melts, and then it's 9, 10 a.m. Roads are fine. Everything's good. So to me, of the ice days are the absolute best, because it's mild. It usually means a mild day. There's nothing to clean up, but you still get it off. Those are the ones that appear like in late February, possibly early March. So underrated is really not even just a snow day; it's the ice day. Those are my favorite. Those are my favorites. So
well done.
We'd love to hear what the listeners think. I'm sure we have some parents that might not be happy of the snow day, but again, trust us. It looks like it's going to live up to.
Yes, it does.
And if it doesn't, you can reach out to Paul Gross or Rich Luderman or any of those other fine fellows on the local weather. So, all right, hot mic take. What do you have this week for us?
So, I was reflecting about something recently because of football season coming to a close, and just a couple of football things that I can do. Like, I can give you, I'm not going to do it right now because it'd bore you to tears, but I can run through Barry Sanders's rushing yards year by year, give you his exact number. I might even be able to do the carries per year. I'm not certain about that. But I can give you every Heisman Trophy winner from like 1981, beginning with Marcus Allen, all the way through like 2001.
Now, we need to go to trivia night somewhere.
Well, okay, so that's my point. I want to know from the listener, what random useless trivia can you do? Like, and I'm sure I'll bet you like Tony Saavedra will jump in on this because he's obviously a big sports fan. I'd love to hear from him. The guys on my text thread, what useless trivia do you have that really benefits you nothing in life? I'm sure, like you mentioned trivia night, but I'm sure I'm never going to be at, Joe's or something on trivia night.
Well, that's where this really comes in, are these trivia nights.
You're right. But
these bar trivia nights, you can win a gift card or something, some money.
I mean, I had Barry Sanders is my all-time favorite athlete to watch, and I loved watching him, before. But how I know his rushing numbers per year, I don't understand it. And I'm just curious from the perspective of the listener, where are you on all that? What do you have that just? I know this stuff. Who cares if I But what do you have that? Just can you share with us that? Just does you no good, but it's still something So I'm very curious.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I'm sure not to limit it to sports, because I'm going to now tie into my hot mic taking TV like history, movie history, like stuff like that. I see people running with that all the time. My hot mic take is, so this I started watching this and I know tons of people, right? We always get suggestions of streaming stuff, and now it's so ironic, right? Like everyone left cable to go to like Netflix. I see these memes now all posted. Cable bill was $200, and now people list all their streaming sites, and their bill's like $250, right? Because like, they have all these. And so I have HBO Max, one of many streaming services I have, and I started watching a series called The Last of Us. Don't know if you heard or seen anything that's getting publicized a lot. It's based off a video game, which is interesting. You know, a lot of stuff based
Oh
off
yeah, you
books.
mentioned yesterday. Yeah.
So I played the game way back when it came out. Great game. And I started watching the series. The lead actor is the guy that played in The Mandalorian. And I wanted to ask the listeners, because I'm sure tons of people stream stuff. There's two different routes in streaming, right? There's Netflix. A lot of their series they drop, and it's boom. You get the whole
You get
series,
everything right.
episode 1 through episode 8, or whatever it is. And then you have like what Disney does with their like Star Wars themed shows, and what HBO Max does with their shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm, and now this The Last of Us. It's and they're, you know, the reason I think part of why they do this, you think back to HBO before streaming, like The Sopranos was every Sunday night, or any other big series, Game of Thrones, and so people would always Sunday night they knew
Right.
that HBO was going to be
Right.
on, and then it would be on randomly throughout the week or on demand. But that first episode was always Sunday, and you waited for it, and then you waited for the next week. And that's what I'm doing. And so I started. And again, I'm not a big streamer, like, but I have done a few things, of course, old things that I got to watch to catch up. I just wonder what people prefer. Do they like the full drop, the Netflix style, or do they prefer like HBO and the suspense of one week after another? I actually don't mind, like I was at, because like I actually watched the first episode on Saturday, the week after it came out. So I was pretty late in it. And then I was like, I thought, oh, maybe episode 2 is already out. I didn't even know what night it was. And I looked and I was bummed that it wasn't until Sunday. And I watched it right away early this week on Tuesday after work or Monday after work. Just two different ways of doing it. I think us growing up in the age of you had to wait a week. Like if you'd watch the show and then it would be next week is this. I'm just curious what viewers prefer. Plus, I don't end up vegging out for like, it makes me only watch an hour. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yes,
sit there
I
and
prefer that. Yes, I would prefer that. I prefer the drop it once a week. I like that. Maybe it's a generational thing, you know. The younger listener amongst us would probably prefer just get it all at once, watch it on your own time whenever you want. But I like the once a week thing myself.
and plus it's sort of like I think there's just more buildup and excitement to be
Right,
like, okay,
right.
like I'm waiting for especially if the show is, you know, I think it possibly keeps you in there. If I was there right away and I don't start liking episode 2, I might just zone out and not watch it, you know. Whereas if I'm waiting, I'm trying to think what other ones may do that. I don't know. I didn't watch The Handmaid's Tale, but I think that's another one too that is week by week when it's out on Hulu. I'm not sure. We'd like to
I
hear
don't
what
know.
listeners
I
think.
just started watching it. It's actually very good. I know the Lakers or like I don't remember what it's called, but the Lakers thing that was on HBO, they did theirs once a week.
Okay, so even like their document. Oh,
yeah,
that wasn't. It was like a show, right?
it
But
was
it
a
was like
show.
it was a show. Yeah, yep. That HBO's thing is once a week, and again, I think that goes back to their famous
Right.
Sunday night lineup. So we'd love to hear what people think, and no food involved. All right, so wrapping up, we got the divisional round of the playoffs. My two teams that I had San Francisco and Cincinnati, and I still am standing by those. Although Philadelphia looked really good.
We did.
But to me, Cincinnati, like I said last week, Cincinnati is on top of their game right now, man. They are just like last year. They weren't that great early, middle of the season, but they are on fire right now. And Mahomes is banged up. I think maybe someone said they're a betting favorite right now going
I
into
would think
Kansas
it
City.
would be. I mean, the
I
Mahomes
mean,
injury situation
probably very slim, but I mean, man, it's looking. I don't mean to pat myself on the back, and I didn't bet anything, but again, although Philadelphia looks tough. So what do you got going? Again, I'm going to stick with what got me here. What do you have going into this weekend?
I mean, I said San Francisco, Buffalo, but I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna go San Francisco. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go Philly, Cincinnati now. I think they're just both playing so well. I mean, Cincinnati went into Buffalo and it was an invasion, and I mean they absolutely dominated that game from start to finish.
Could not stop them at all.
No, and Buffalo is turning on itself. People are now starting to question Josh Allen a little bit, you know. And Philly, I gotta say, man, I did not think. Going back to his college days, Jalen Hurts to me, I'm just waiting for him to be what I think he is. He's
come
not.
Back to earth.
Yeah, and he isn't. He's just played.
Good for him. Good for him.
Yeah,
a guy that was benched. That was benched by Alabama.
In college, like think about it, and transferred to Oklahoma, and now, man, he is playing on a level that's unbelievable. And so And by the way, these are Max Bailey's. I'm sure he'll probably proclaim if, my picks in the Super Bowl, those are his two fantasy quarterbacks, Burrow and Jalen Hurts, and he's not sure which one to start every week. But I just think, man, those guys are, and San Francisco, it's so impressive. Shanahan and a third string quarterback floating him out there and just still winning games and still doing it. But man, I don't know. Philly just looks like they're on another level right now.
Yeah, I honestly thought Philly was going to be in a close game with the Giants, and that's why I took San Francisco last week, thinking that they just had an easier route. And if I would switch, I honestly think Philly's going to win, but I'm just going to stick with what I went for. So, but
nothing better than seeing Jerry Jones' team lose.
Yes.
Right?
Oh God, it's so great. It's so great. I'm glad the kicker made his field goals. I was feeling bad for that. Like everyone was piling on this guy. So, yep. So next week, when we're working on setting up some guests, I think in these upcoming episodes. So we're gonna work on that. You're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on one. That's what we hope for. We hope everyone's safe. Enjoy your snow day, everyone, and we will be back next week.